Hi, everybody. This video is to help you write your best possible essay for CIEE's High School Summer Abroad program. Specifically, this video is all about the essay prompt, what extracurricular activities do you have, and how do they develop your personal strengths? So let's dig in and get you some money. Before you start actually doing your essay on CIEE's site, I want you to consider writing your essay in a Word document, in a Google document, or something similar to that. And then when you're done, copy and paste it into the CIEE application website. There are a few different reasons for that, and this is generally, I think, best practice for any kind of essay you have to write for anything. The first reason, which might be the biggest, is that sometimes things don't save in websites. You might write the best essay ever, then hit submit and get an error message and find out that your entire essay was lost. So if you save it in a different document outside of a web page, then if that happens, it's no big deal. You just copy and paste it again because you have it saved. Another thing is you might apply again next year. What if you don't get enough scholarship money this year and you try again next year? Tons of people do that. No big deal. It's probably going to be helpful to see what you wrote this year when you're writing next year. For example, maybe you want to make some changes to the essay, or maybe you want to write something completely different and need to know what you wrote in the first place to be able to do that. Lastly, there is often a lot of crossover with essays for a lot of different things. So in this essay, you are writing about extracurriculars that you have. It's entirely possible that when you write an application for college acceptance and admissions essay, you might also have to write about extracurriculars. So you don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. You just go back to the document that you saved with your CIEE extracurricular essay and then modify it to fit whatever the new essay requirements are. Then here are just some overall essay writing tips. First and foremost, please check your spelling and grammar. Have an adult look it over for you, preferably an adult who has good spelling and grammar themselves. This is also another good reason to use a program like Word, because a spell check and a grammar check are already built in to the program. Lastly here, don't use slang, or at least if you use it, make sure there's a really good reason for it. Anytime you write an essay for an application, the readers are really looking for your best use of the language that is required for the essay. To that end, don't use AI because that's not your language. That's a computer's language. Also, CIEE and other companies and organizations use AI detectors. So if AI is detected or suspected, that's a fantastic way to ensure you don't get any money, and we don't want that. Make sure you answer the question. This is not the time or the place to go off on a tangent. The reviewer is going to have your essay and a rubric next to them. The rubric is going to be based on the question. So if you're not directly answering the question, it's going to be really hard for the reviewer to score you high because what you wrote won't be relating to the rubric they have to use. Also consider this is not an essay for an English class. You may want an introduction, particularly if you're a creative writer, but I'm not sure it's necessary, and conclusions are definitely not necessary. So in this essay and others, there is often a word count limit. And so if you're using intros and conclusions, more often than not, you are wasting valuable words for the word count. Don't be wishy-washy in your writing. Take a stand. So you don't need to say, Well, I was in volleyball for a little bit, but not all 4 years. Say, I played volleyball freshman year. That is definitely more clear. It's not as wishy washy. You want to use strong and descriptive verbs. You want to make sure that you are using words that will help the reader understand what it specifically was that you did. So, for example, if one of your extracurriculars is teaching a religious class at your place of worship to kids on the weekend, say that you taught. If you created curriculum or created projects for those students, say that you created. Don't just say, I was involved in religious education at my place of worship. Don't say you were involved. Use something stronger. You taught, you created, you participated. Also, you want to use their words. This goes for CIEE or anywhere else you're writing essays. Look at the question or the prompt and highlight the key words. Make sure you're using those words somewhere in your essay. So, for this particular essay, those key words are extracurricular, develop, and develop is a verb. So, that's a present tense verb. You might, depending upon what you're saying, you might say developed, a past tense verb, and that's fine. And strengths. Those 3 words are probably going to show up in the reviewer's rubric. So figure out a way to add those into your essay. Lastly, here you want to hunt around on CIEE's website, highlight or write down key words that you see and that CIEE uses. They are telling you what words are important to them. So it's in your best interest to use those words. That said, you do not want to use too much. That can be overkill and it can seem odd, but maybe a little here, a little there. Make it seem like, hey, we have a connection. We speak the same language. The structure of this essay. So one way to organize it could be, first paragraph is all about activities. And then second paragraph, with those activities, let me back up. You want to consider a lot of different kinds of activities. I always recommend to anybody writing an essay, you want to think, okay, what is everybody else going to write? And what can I do that's a step up? It's entirely possible that some kids writing this essay are going to only write about activities that they do in school, or only write about activities that they do outside of school. I want you to consider, maybe make a list before you write your essay. What are your in-school activities? What are your out-of-school activities? Do you have any activities with a religious group? Not that you need to. I'm just saying a lot of students do. Do you have any volunteer work and paid jobs that you do? And a big one, I think, is highlighting leadership activities. So if you have, for example, an in-school sport, do you have any leadership there? Have you been a captain? If you have an in-school organization, for example, student council, have you taken on a leadership role? Definitely look to highlight leadership. Sometimes students like to start by listing activities and then highlight a couple. That might be a way that works for you. But if you feel like it doesn't really fit what you're trying to achieve, I wouldn't say you have to list all of your activities. I think it's key to focus on 2 or 3 and make them from different areas of your life. Again, in school, out of school, volunteering. Describe them. Make sure you describe the activity enough so that the person reading your essay understands what it is. So don't say that you are a part of a group at your school that may not exist outside of your school. Say that you're a part of such and such group and say what it is. Say what that group does, how you become a part of it, and possibly who leads it, so that whoever is reading is like, oh, okay, I get it. I've never heard of that, but oh, that maybe is similar to something at a different high school that I know of. A lot of students are going to say that they are involved in things and they do not describe them, and it leaves the reviewer confused. You never want to do that. Then in paragraph 2, discuss how those extracurricular activities developed your strengths. And when you do this, I want you to consider different kinds of strengths. So academic strengths, social emotional strengths, global competence strengths, or just skills. So for example, let's use athletics. Athletics, you can say, this really helped me develop, you can use basketball. Being in basketball for 4 years and being the point guard specifically helped me develop my skills in leading the offense and in ball handling. And then you can say like what that does for me outside of basketball is X, Y, or Z. I do think it is important to consider different kinds of activities and different kinds of strengths. Again, a lot of students are not going to focus on different kinds of activities or different kinds of strengths. So this will put you above a lot of the pack. With the strengths, this is an area where students tend to have trouble. They think, oh, I don't want to talk about myself. I'm not really sure if this is a strength. No, I really want you in your essays to own it. And be descriptive about how these activities and strengths led to personal change, personal growth. It might be change that is happening right now, or you can say, I expect that in the future, this will help me by X, Y, or Z. Here's kind of a structure that you may want to follow. Here's where I was prior to the activity. Here's where I am now after having been in the activity. And here's where I'm going with this strength. Here's how this strength will impact my future. Then lastly, wrapping it up. So when you're done with your essay, I want you to read it through or have someone else read it and ask, am I clear and convincing? Do you understand what I'm saying? Or would someone who doesn't know me, doesn't know my school, doesn't know my town, understand what this is about? Am I convincing that I have extracurriculars, I have developed strengths, and I am doing something or will do something with those strengths? Do you provide evidence for statements that are more general? So, for example, don't just tell someone, show them. Don't say, for example, I developed leadership by being on the basketball team. Okay, a lot of people have. Describe how you developed leadership. What were the specifics that helped you grow as a leader? All of these things in this video will hopefully help your essay stand out among others. In particular, you want to make sure that you are not just being general. You're really personalizing it. You're putting yourself and your personal story into these essays. Best of luck. I hope you get a lot of scholarship money and have an amazing experience on your high school summer abroad program.